Hello again, internet friends, and welcome back to the Bettendorf, Iowa City Council meeting on public access television. Last week we talked about the bare minimum fitness standard that I thought everyone should be at if they want to be a healthy, capable person, and that was being able to run a mile in under 8 minutes. That was being able to squat 1.5 times body weight, bench your body weight, and deadlift 2 times your body weight, and do anywhere from 5 to 10 pull-ups depending on your body weight, along with some other concepts. And in this week's video, we'll be talking about how to structure your training so that if you have not met that standard yet, you can begin to train and work towards meeting it. I was originally going to talk about structuring a 4-day training week, but when I thought about it, I think half of my online athletes, if not more, train 3 days a week or less. And that's not necessarily ideal, but I think for a lot of people, that's the time that they can spare. And I even train 3 days a week. I have a day job in addition to the online business that I have coaching, and I'm really busy with work and family responsibilities and things like that. And so I think for a lot of people, 3 days a week is much more manageable than trying to go to the gym every day or 4 days a week or something like that. But it's consistent enough and it's frequent enough to where they can still see very good gains. And kind of like the last video, I'm not going to get into training concepts a ton. This is just going to be simple advice that you can kind of copy and paste, and then once you have that basic training structure in play and you're actually going to the gym and doing these workouts, you can start to adjust things based on your needs and what you like and don't like. But this will give you a very simple starting point, and this is what I use for a lot of general population athletes who are kind of just starting out and don't necessarily have a lot of experience or time in the gym. So for most people, I find that 2 days a week of lifting and 1 day of running is a really good place to start. A lot of people don't want to have to worry about running and lifting on the same day. Logistically, it's kind of a pain in the butt if you have to go on a run and then drive to the gym. This way, you only drive to the gym 2 days a week, and you can kind of just get your run in at home, or a lot of people have a treadmill at home or something like that. And on top of that, people just seem to enjoy only having to focus on one type of training, at least initially. There may come a time, and it's perfectly fine, I do it with a lot of my athletes, where you're going to do some lifting and some running on the same day. But just to start, I think you're fine running 1 time a week and lifting twice a week. I like to split the heavier lower body lifts up as much as we can, because those are going to be the most stressful. They're going to take the longest amount of time to recover from. So a heavy squat and a heavy deadlift, I'll usually have somebody do a heavy deadlift along with a bench press on Monday, and then they can squat on Thursday or Friday, and then at some point in the middle of the week they're going to go on their run. You do not have to structure your training this way. There's 1,000 different ways you can do it. The main reason I do it this way is because, one, like I said, I want to keep the heavier lower body sessions, which are going to be very fatiguing on the lower back, far apart so that you have time to recover in between those sessions. And also because if I save running to the end of the week, it's been my experience that a lot of people just won't do it. And that's pretty common for anything that you put at the end of the week. A lot of people hit the week hard on Monday, and Monday through Wednesday is pretty good, and then towards the end of the week they start to fall off. So if you leave the run, which generally people don't like running that much, till the end of the week, a lot of times it's not going to get done. And so I leave that earlier in the week. That way we make sure to actually get it in and get the miles in that we need to make progress. And then you still have 1 day of lifting to look forward to for those of you who like lifting more. The reason I put deadlift and bench together is because bench press, relatively speaking, is going to be a lot less stressful because you're using less weight, less muscle mass is being damaged, and you're not using your lower body. So if you have a hard deadlift session and a hard bench press session in the same workout, it's not necessarily going to fatigue you the same amount that trying to squat and deadlift in the same workout would, and your risk of overdoing it is going to be a lot lower. And because you can recover from an exercise, really any upper body exercise, a lot faster than you can most heavy lower body movements. You can afford to train your upper body more times in a week than you can your lower body, generally speaking. So I'll have somebody do a heavy bench press on Monday along with their deadlift, and then Thursday, Friday, when they go to squat, they can do an overhead press or a dip or something like that. You can bench twice if you want to focus more on the bench press. But those upper body movements you can and should train more often. On your lifting days, after you've done your main strength movements, your squat, your overhead press, your deadlift, and your bench press, stuff like that, the first thing I would recommend doing and prioritizing after that is some sort of upper body pulling motion. So a rowing machine, pull-ups, lat pull-downs, bodyweight rows, something like that. And then once you've prioritized those movements in that order, because those movements are going to give you the biggest return on your time investment as far as strength and hypertrophy gain. If you still have time, maybe you get done with those and you still have 15 minutes to work out a little bit more, that's when I would add in accessory movements like calf raises, neck exercises, bicep curls, whatever it is you want to focus on. But if you are shorter on time, or maybe you're just really not motivated, or you're tired at the end of the day and you're only going to be in the gym for a half hour or 45 minutes for whatever reason, prioritize those compound heavy movements, because those are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. But realistically, if you can spend an hour in the gym and you time your rest periods so that in between those heavier compound sets you're only resting 3 minutes, which is plenty of time to rest, then you're still going to have time for at least 2 or 3 accessory exercises, which I think in the long run are really important. So even though we prioritize those main movements, those are certainly not the whole picture. So even if you're short on time, time your rest periods, stay off your phone. That way you can get in an accessory movement or 2 after your main movements and really start building yourself into a complete athlete and not just a power lifter who can run. And as time goes on and you increase your strength and your work capacity and your muscle mass and your resiliency, those accessory exercises can change. They can be isolation movements, they can be conditioning movements, they can be more explosive stuff like a box jump, really whatever you want to focus on. And for your running day in the middle of the week, obviously like everything else, it's going to depend on your fitness level, but generally I will start people at a very slow mile run at a very easy, manageable pace where they feel like when they get done with the mile, they could have run maybe another quarter of a mile or even a half a mile. And then each week I will add 1/4 of a mile, and that's it. And I'll have them maintain that nice, easy pace. And what that does is it builds your aerobic base, but it doesn't beat you up and fatigue you like something that's a little bit more high intensity would. That way you can kind of save your knees for squat day and not be so sore that you risk aggravating some pain or sensitivity with the knees, which is a problem a lot of people run into. And so while you're lifting heavy and getting a little bit stronger, you're building up this great aerobic base, you're increasing your work capacity when it comes to the runs, so that if you want to work on something more explosive down the road, like a 400 meter or even a 100 meter dash, you've built up a lot of good volume that you can use to then take yourself into that more intense running domain. But I like to start out nice and slow and just get in a lot of good volume. And week 1 you're only doing the mile if that's manageable for you, and then by the end of what is usually a 6-week phase, you're lifting heavy on a regular basis, but you've also built yourself up to the point where you can run 2 or 3 miles or maybe even a little bit more depending on how fast you progress the mileage. But it's really important to remember trying to keep that easy pace, maybe like 50 or 60% of whatever you feel like your maximum running potential is. Keep it at that 50%, because that's what's going to allow you to add more volume each week and increase your aerobic capacity. So that's a very basic training week that I would recommend. If you're not really sure how to start or where to start with that. Monday, you're deadlifting, you're bench pressing, 1 or 2 accessory exercises. Then on Wednesday, you're going to do your low intensity, long distance run. and then Friday you're going to squat, overhead press, maybe some pull-ups, and then 1 or 2 exercises. Boom, you just had a great training week. You only had to work out 3 days, and your workouts are really only taking about an hour. So now that you have a bit of a clue on how to organize your training on a daily and weekly basis, in the follow-up video to this one, in what will most likely be a series of videos, we will talk about how to organize your training in a more long-term structure over months. We'll talk a little bit more about how to increase the volume and intensity of your workouts, and we'll talk more about exercise selection, but that will be in the next video. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, and donate to the Red Cross.